Welcome to Everyday Economics, the podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network. You can subscribe to all of our podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics, please make a tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We're recording this episode on Friday, July 26th. And joining me, as always, my friend and colleague, Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, I look forward to Mondays, unlike most American working people, because I get to read the Dr. O column and the Everyday Economics column at centersquare.com. I've really enjoyed that. When we tape this show, which airs on Mondays, of course, we tape it on Fridays, but we talk about the week ahead. So what's going on in the week ahead? What's there to look forward to?
Look, I hope the everyday people reading the Everyday Economics column are going to start to like Mondays more, now that they have more information about what's going to happen in the economy, but also what that actually means for their wallets. So what's going on next week? Well, next week we have the all important Fed decision, interest rate decision on Wednesday. We don't expect the Fed to ease policy in July. We think the Fed will delay. I mean, we got a very strong GDP number this week. GDP came in, grew at an annualized rate of 2.8% in Q2, which is higher than it was in Q1, almost doubled, and higher than it was a year ago. So we basically have, we're sitting on a strong U.S. economy and an economy that just got larger and larger. That's even larger than what we thought it would be before the pandemic. And, mechanically, it just makes sense, right? We continue to add jobs. And if you think about the fact that GDP is essentially total hours worked plus some productivity gains, hours worked increased, more people working, more hours worked. We're getting some wins that productivity growth could be improving, in the near future, but also maybe even more, right? Given the talks about what AI could do. And all of that translates to a larger economy. Now, what's beautiful about this story is that inflation's been easing, and that actually helps those workers gain more purchasing power. It looks good. I mean, the rest of the world has been kind of slowing down. You've seen some of the major central banks easing policy already. The Fed is not in a rush, and really doesn't have to be when you consider what's going on. All right, and then we got the employment report. And the employment report is likely going to see employment slowing down because, the likelihood that we're going to continue to get the labor supply tailwind forever, it doesn't seem like that's possible. We're probably going to get employment growth slowing a little bit. On the wage growth front, wages increased 0.3% last month. I expect wage growth to continue to ease slightly, maybe due to the fact that hiring hasn't picked up yet, and it isn't likely to pick up until policy, at least, is less restrictive. Fed policy has become more restrictive as inflation has continued to cool. And so I don't see employers going out there and putting up more job postings. In fact, I think 2 months ago, we got the JOLTS report showing basically that the vacancy to unemployed worker ratio had basically returned to its pre-pandemic level. All right. So
I'm hearing the same thing. I'm hearing that, that employers, well, first of all, people are staying with jobs longer. I mean, the people aren't walking away from their jobs because there aren't as many opportunities that are out there. And I would say that's applicable across all sectors, everywhere from high-end tech to light manufacturing. So I think that tracks in what I'm hearing, just on the street.
Totally. And I think, we'll get the ISM manufacturer. I won't talk too much about that. It's in contraction territory, probably likely to stay there. We're going to get construction spending. Construction spending probably slowed again. It fell last month. So I expect, especially on the residential side, where basically you see mortgage rates have stayed elevated, builders have pulled back, permits up but starts down. So you take all that together, and you have an economy that's strong, but that's likely to slow. And so that's probably what we're going to see in the data next week.
What's that look like when the economy starts to slow? What are some of the indicators that, the people at home might be able to just see for themselves?
Totally. The simple fact that people are not out there quitting their jobs anymore and that they're staying put is a sign that the economy is slowing. The fact that people are not selling and buying homes at the same speed as they were a year ago or 2 years ago is a sign that the economy is slowing. Inventory is now 23% higher than it was last year. Housing inventory. Sales slumped. Last month, sales were down. Existing home sales were down 5%. Big decrease for just 1 month, right? So housing sales slumped last month. Now, I'm going to add a little something to this. You saw that new home sales didn't decrease all that much, only decreased by 0.6%. And I think we called it on this podcast when we said basically, yes, it's true that demand has slowed, but the fact that existing home sellers tend to retreat during the summer months means that for those potential home buyers that are still out there looking to buy, they're likely going to find new homes as an alternative, and new home sales could actually tick up a little bit from here, especially if we get a little bit of easing on the mortgage rate front. Right? Very much an interest rate story. As long as rates stay high for longer, the economy will continue to cool. And that's okay because we're still in a pretty good place.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts as always. Lots to talk about and lots to read about at thecentersquare.com, the Everyday Economics column. It appears every Monday. It's Dr. Orphe Divoungui's work. For Dr. O, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of high-quality podcasts at americastalking.com.